Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker.
Yay!
Oh my God. Where there is a kingdom, there will be a rebellion. In the group called Fure du Oth, Raeve knows that when she is ordered to make a kill, she must always deliver, no questions asked. After a stranger makes a move that causes her life to go up in flames, Raeve embarks on a journey of revenge and redemption. Where will she end up next? Will she find the man she wants dead more than anything else? And who is this handsome stranger that appears wherever she goes? Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Well, Rachel, let's dive in.
So, this book has been on our collective TBR for a while. Um, and so I am glad that we read it. However, I will preface this entire podcast by saying that I did not love it. So, if you could please refrain from tagging the author in anything that we put out regarding this book, it would be greatly appreciated.
I do agree it's definitely been on our collective TBR, but I will not say that I'm glad I read it. I'm just glad that it's off my TBR.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, at least it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
The reason why I wanted to make that disclaimer up front is because, like, say hypothetically you really loved this book, which you may have, listener, dear listener, because it's an international bestseller or something. We'll dive into the reasons why I am baffled by that. Um, so you may have loved it, and I would hate for you to read the whole or listen to the whole podcast and at the end me be like, yeah, this book was not for me. Yeah, so right up front, I didn't dig it, Jen didn't dig it. We're going to explore why we didn't dig it, and if you would like to join us on that journey, we would love to have you,
Hmm.
but you don't have to. You can
We
respectfully bow out now.
we understand. I
We
mean,
understand.
it again, this is our opinion versus everybody else's. Everybody else is entitled to their own opinions. They don't have to agree with this. So I DNF'd this book. I did not finish.
I
I
also DNF'd it.
I could not keep going. I'm sorry. It was just, in my opinion, it just wasn't it at all.
Actually, I did not necessarily DNF it. I just haven't finished it yet. I'm on chapter like 50 something and I plan on finishing it. I just didn't care enough to cram it before the podcast.
I do not plan on finishing it. I'm sorry. And listen, I really wanted this book. I own not only the physical copy of this book, but also the audiobook and the digital version of this book. That's how excited I was for this book. And then I started reading it. No, it wasn't all bad. It started out pretty good. I was actually like kind of like, okay, what's gonna happen? And I think for me, the first part that immediately kind of threw me off was the diary entries. To
Mm-hmm.
me, those were like the biggest, like, I'm good. Because I didn't know who we were talking about. And then as I was also like flipping from um, the regular book to the audiobook, I was lost on who the frick was talking at some points because all of a sudden it was a male's voice during a diary bit. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
I get that.
Rachel, you go ahead.
I didn't hate the diary entries because I do love I for some I love things like that. I think it builds the intrigue. I didn't hate it. Um there was a lot in that. There was like the diary entries, then there were chapters from her point of view, and then there were chapters from other people's point of view, and then other people's points of view. Which again, I love dual POVs. Or multi POVs. I love that. I do think that there has to be some kind of pattern, not necessarily every other chapter, but you can't go 13 chapters with one POV and then switch. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Maybe you can. Because you can't have a POV from a character who's not introduced yet. So like there is a character that's introduced like 40 chapters in, and it would make sense to from that point forward have things from her perspective. I don't know exactly what it is. It was almost like we have her point of view, the main female character, and then the main male character, but like you'll have like 13 chapters with her point of view, a chapter from his point of view, then you'll have 6 chapters from her point of view, and then a chapter from his point of view. And it was very kind of like all over the place in terms of there was no pattern, right? So that was my biggest deal.
I like how you actually described that, because I'm not saying that it has to follow this, but take Gothicana, for instance. All right. Now, it wasn't always in the FMC's point of view. It was sometimes in the MMC's point of view. But at the same time, the way that the author did it, it was like that, that. Or even at one point, it did switch to this, that, but it still kept a pattern. The flow of it felt natural. This did not feel natural. It felt like you started talking about this, and then all of a sudden we're over here talking about something else from somebody else's different point of view. And then we're switching back to what we were originally talking about. And then we forget about what the other person was talking about, and then we're back into it. And it just, it threw me off. It really threw me off. But that wasn't even like one of my biggest things that threw me off. That was just one of the first things.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that thought that. So when we first are introduced into this book, we have a character called Raeve, and she is what was she doing in the beginning of the book? She was at a concert. She was like playing as a musician in a concert, and because she had a hit, like she was on a job to kill someone. And then so she goes out and she takes him out, and then like is immediately like face to face with like this tall, dark, handsome, And so they have a little bit of banter, and then he goes away. I remember what happened after that.
Oh, she kills her mark.
Yeah, she killed the mark.
Dumps him over the edge.
Yeah. Like, well, after she dumped him over the edge is when the guy comes and is like, "There's a body over there," and she's like, "No shit."
Well, she caught him on the stairs too in the club.
Yeah. You remember this way better than I do.
Oh, this is the only part that I actually remember of this. Like this is where I was interested in the book.
The beginning was like, it was fine. I think I need to get this out of the way. My biggest qualm with this book was that it was overwritten. It was so, in my opinion, it was so overwritten. There were so many like, I love flowery language. I love prose. Give me the beautiful, like, I don't know, the rhythmic, beautiful language. I'm all about that. But for some reason, this book was kind of like everything was up to a 10, right? Everything was turned up to a 10. The intensity of everything, you know, in my humble opinion, I like using, you know, a good vocabulary. I love like when you have sentence structure that's beautiful and flows. But for some reason, with this book, I feel like instead of having words enhance the sentence or sentences enhancing the scene or the scene enhancing the story, it's not, nothing enhances it. It's just shoved out there. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it was packed with as much big words as possible, and it was packed with as much detail for no freaking reason as possible. Um, Everything was overthought. She overthought everything, which I've read characters that have been like overthinkers or anxious or whatever, but like she would be sitting there. Oh my god, what was the one scene? It was like she had been like picked up and by a dragon and deposited. We're all over this episode is so chaotic. She had been picked up by this dragon and she had been like deposited in this spot, and she was like, "Oh my god, I'm in the dragon's nest. I know it. I know that just before me is going to be a bunch of really hungry baby dragons and they're going to tear me apart and it's going to be so painful." And this whole thing, and she goes on this huge long rant. And it's like, bitch, if you don't open your eyes, like open your eyes and see what's going on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that happened constantly. Oh my god, I'm gonna do this thing and then this is gonna happen and then this is gonna happen and this is gonna happen. It's like, ma'am, really? Sure, be anxious. Sure, be nervous. But like, we can't react to what's going on around you if you're not looking at what's going on around you, you know? Like, sure, we want the characters have to be human and they have to have their input and they have to be able to have feelings and emotions and stuff, right? Because we're not only playing on the scene, but we're also playing on the characters. You know what I mean? Like you can, if you care about a character, you're going to follow them through bad writing. You're going to follow them through bad storytelling ish. But the character was so in her head that I was like, oh my effing God.
Yeah.
There was, I couldn't hold that in any longer.
I like, okay, so Rachel and I normally don't talk podcast books during the week. Like, it doesn't matter like how much we love it, hate it. We usually don't do it. There's
We want
been
to
like,
save it for you guys.
yeah, and there's been like maybe two or three times that we really have out of over 60 episodes and 60 books.
Oh my
And
God.
this book, I called her and I was like, dude, like I gotta say this. Like, I'm not loving this book. And I felt so bad because of the fact that not only did I like really push wanting this book and knowing that it was a huge book to try to take on for a week, but at the same time, it just sucked so bad to sit there and have to hear something explained over and over and over again. And as Rachel said, over explained. And it just didn't stop. So there was nothing really to actually relate you to the book. And certain things that should have been explained were explained or, spent more time on, such as the best friend. I don't even remember her name because she was such a blip in this book that I just forgot about her. She wasn't important, and that should be something that's hugely important. That's her best friend.
I was so kind of bummed about that because like we got essentially no scenes with her and the best friend, and then all of a sudden the best friend's gone, and it's like she had such a deep reaction to her best friend's death, right? And this is not a spoiler, guys. Like it happens within the first few chapters of the book or whatever. Like, but she has such a huge reaction to her best friend's death. And we couldn't feel that. I couldn't feel it. I didn't care.
you know.
She seemed like such a sweet character, but like I couldn't have cared less. And I need to explain something to you right now, Jennifer. I love you so much. But if I am stabbed and the options are go to a doctor or go to a healer and come and tell you that I'm going to die, I'm going to a healer and I'll see you on Tuesday. What is happening? How was that the decision that was made?
Thank you. Thank you.
And I was sitting there like, are we kidding? What is happening?
Yeah. You go past all those skin threaders and you don't stop. Like, you're just gonna let yourself bleed out instead of showing the person where you're living. Because I'm sorry, if I stab someone and I was, looking for them, I would follow the person that I just stabbed because, well, obviously they're stupid enough to go home and show us where the person that I'm looking for lives.
Yeah.
I'm
It was a
sorry.
whole lot. No, it was a lot. It was a lot. And the reason that was given of why the best friend didn't go to a healer was because she didn't want she didn't want Raeve to feel abandoned like she was abandoned. And I get that there was some childhood trauma there, 100%. But that is, in my opinion, the flimsiest reason to not go to a doctor I've ever heard in my entire life. So you are going to justify going into a very dangerous area because like your friend doesn't know. She wouldn't have you could have been on a trip to the store instead of the healer. Like I just
Well, and on top of that, she could have sent a lark saying, "Hey, I got hurt. Here's where I." The larks literally go looking for the person that are meant for that note.
I was
So
baffled.
yeah, there was so much, like there was so many inconsistencies that it just made it aggravating.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really couldn't understand some of the choices. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I think if she would have taken a different approach to some of it, that it could have been better and made more sense. But I think some of her choices kind of made it fall a little short from where it could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, because instead of us being like, oh no, this happened, that poor woman, we were thinking, okay, well, if you had just done this, that would never have happened.
Right. And then when she died, it was like, well, oh well. Like,
Well,
what do
that's
I
what happens
care?
when you're stabbed and you don't go to a healer.
Yeah. What do I care that you died because you made a dumb choice?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And it was awful because, and it's awful because her reaction to her best friend's death is a 25, right? Out of 10. It was up there at a 25.
That part
But
was great.
also, her walking down the street is at a 25. That was my biggest problem, was the fact that everything was cranked up in the intensity. If there is an emphasis on everything, then there is an emphasis on nothing. Nothing stands out when everything is life or death. And don't get me wrong, there are people in the world whose everyday existence is life or death. There are instances in books where there's every moment is life or death, but it can't feel like that. I feel bad because I feel like I'm just tearing this book apart because it honestly, it was not for me. And I know that so many other people loved it because it's a bestseller, but like, I don't get it.
Honestly, like, this is to the level that I was kind of like confused and didn't understand how this book got to a bestseller. I don't know what a moon plume is. Like, I know you described it to me, so I
I Googled
understand
it.
now. What's that?
I Googled it.
Okay. Well, I understand now that she explained it, but before she explained, I had no idea. Like, I was completely in the dark. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, what's the difference between a moon plume and a dragon? And like, why do I care? And yeah, I really stopped caring, especially once the best friend died. Because there was, after that, it was like you already knew what was going to happen because there was way too many context clues in the beginning to not know or to not already assume what's going to happen in the end. So I don't need to read the rest of it because I already know how it's going to end. It's just, I don't know.
No, that's a fantastic observation, because realistically, yes, the author did there were so many context clues into the secrets of the book that by the time you by the time you got to the explanation of, yes, this is why this and this, it's like, finally, can we move on? It was so weird. It was like everything was so over explained and overwritten and overdone. The reason why I believe you don't know what a moon plume is because you had to wade through all of the other excess noise to get to the meat of the story. And it was too, for what, like, uh it was, it to me, it was too much work. It was just too much. I'm not trying to decipher, Rosetta Stone over here. Like, I'm trying to read a book. I don't know.
Well,
um
and I think there's like the biggest thing, like there's a difference between explaining things and like not wanting to give all the information right away and world building. This to me didn't even feel like world building at this point. Like, yeah, you had a
True.
little bit, but it was just like constant over explaining. And I wasn't able to fully immerse myself in the world. Like I didn't even know what kind of world I should be like focusing on. There was too much, like too many different things being thrown at you all at once.
You know why? Because it wasn't so much. So foreshadowing is breadcrumbs, right? You leave breadcrumbs. These were not breadcrumbs. These were being pelted in the face with 6-day-old stale rolls that are hockey pucks. That's what these were. These were not breadcrumbs. You literally have, so you have the context clues surrounding the character. Then you have the flashbacks or the journal entries. All of these in themselves are too much information. And then you put them all together and it's like, okay. So with Raeve, she, her best friend is killed. She goes off in, you know, a vengeance quest, and she is looking for Rex Zoros because Rex Zoros is the one that you know destroyed her life, and so she's going to kill Rex Zoros, and she's looking for Rex Zoros, and she needs to make sure that she finds Rex Zoros. And the reason why I'm saying it like that is because she says it like that at least 6 times a chapter. I'm sorry. You
Facts.
hear so much about this character. She pops up like, and I feel like it's almost so that you don't forget. What? No, I almost feel like it was written like that so that she can make us understand that the character, with everything else going on, still knows her mission, right? But like, we know the mission. You don't have to keep reminding us of the mission. We understand that even with all of this going on, she still has to find Rex Zoros. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, I got so over hearing his name. Like, I don't know. I felt like I had to mention that because it was a lot. Anyway, basically she goes off to find Rex Zoros, and so she so she's captured and she's like sentenced to death. And I almost, I'm so sorry, listeners. I almost have nothing else to say. Like, we've already kind of said everything. From what I understand, like they're constantly talking about the moons. And from what I understand, what I gather is like when dragons die, they like curl up and go to the sky as like luminous orbs, which are the moons. Um, and then the moons at one point fell from the sky and don't stick up there anymore. I don't know. That's a part of the book. I wanted to talk a little bit about the main character herself. So she is a person who is an assassin who works for this kind of governmenty rebellion thing. And I love me a strong character. I love me a strong female character. I also love a troubled character. Um, the problem that I had with this character was I felt that she tried too hard to be tough when she really wasn't, if that makes sense. Like it was almost like she was constantly like, look at me, look how hard I am, look how savage I am, I'm such a bad bitch, I'm so mean, I'm so angry, I'm so whatever, look at me, you know. It was like she was constantly reminding us how badass she was instead of just being badass. And then she would have her moments, but then she would over explain again how badass she was. There was a quote and it said something, I didn't even write down the quote, but she said something about a savagery inside of her, and I was like, I don't really know about all that. I don't know about this whole savagery that you got going on, because it's kind of like a, I don't know, something with a squishy center.
I was gonna say, because I mean, it's like, yeah, we understand that you're some sort of mercenary. Like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But at the same time, eh, yeah, I don't know. She seems sorry. Randall's response was amazing.
What
Oh,
do you say?
I'm not telling you.
Okay.
It's
So
about the
I
book.
feel like this is one of those. Okay, cool. So I feel like this is one of those instances where I always say that a pit bull does not have to tell you that it's a pit bull, but a chihuahua is always trying to tell you how tough it is, right?
Yes.
And
Perfect.
I feel like this was the perfect example because she was constantly, and I don't want that this to be misconstrued. I love an insecure character. I love a character that's a mess. I love a character that isn't sure of herself. Like, you don't, none of that has any correlation between, there's no correlation between being insecure and being a badass. There are plenty of badasses that are insecure. There are plenty of people who are strong and incredible who are constantly crying at night because they're not sure of themselves. Like, there's no correlation between the two, right? But I feel like she was just constantly telling us. I think the whole book was just telling us instead of showing us,
Mm-hmm. And
you know.
that's like one of the biggest things that you hate too. You always say show
It's
don't
I
tell.
hate it. Yeah, no, show don't tell. Because, and I know that I know that people have qualms with that saying, and I totally understand why, because sometimes you do need to tell to enhance, but you enhance, right? If your best friend dies, and I have no, like, in the story, knock on all the wood, but if her best friend died and I had no visual or like no experience with their friendship up until that point, you can say in the book, which she does, she was like this and she always did this, and remember that time that she was there for me and all of this stuff. But like, okay, cool, like, that whole every time she was trying to explain how much her best friend meant to her, I was like, awesome. Can you have a conversation? Maybe like if you have two characters and something happens to one of them, if we don't see that friendship before then, it doesn't matter because we're not sad that the character's gone. We just know that the character is sad that the character's gone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this whole book is just that. It's
Yeah,
like she's telling us how angry she is. She's not showing us by doing stuff, or, you know, she's telling us how sad and devastated she is, but we're not feeling that with her.
yep. I want to feel that my best friend just died in this book.
How very dare you?
I know, but at the same time, that like I need that. If I'm going to resonate with someone's best friend dying, I need it to feel like I just lost you. And if you don't make me feel that, then why do I care? What is the point of me being upset or having any remorse for this person if I don't feel anything?
Yeah.
She doesn't feel like my friend. She doesn't even feel like her friend. She even said at one point that she doesn't even want her to know how she feels about her. So what do we fucking care for? And like, not even to just like hang up on the best friend thing. Like, she kept saying, "Oh, this man smells good. Oh, this man smells good." Like, I don't give a shit how this man smells. Like, say it once. Don't really care. Say it
Yeah.
twice. I really fucking hate it.
Well, I like it to enhance, right? Again, we're wanting to enhance the story. Not, and I know that I've said that a million times, and we can make a drinking game out of it. Just like we can make a drinking game out of how many times the author wrote the word masticate. You
Oh,
couldn't have said
Lord.
chew at least once. Like that's what I mean about like overdo. I don't know. I feel like we're going hard on this book, and I'm sorry to people who liked this book. And we always want to say that this is our opinions, and this does not. It does not mean that this book is garbage, because there are some people who have this book tattooed on themselves. There are some
Mm-hmm.
people who have been very vocal about their love for it, and honestly, I'm so glad that this book exists so that they can love it. Right? We all want books in our lives where we can connect with it and we can, you know, have it mean something to us. So I will never say that this book is garbage, because to those people this book is not garbage, but it's not for me.
Or me. But I think this book could have been so much better. I think I could have fallen in love with this book if we would have just cut it right in half.
Yeah,
Half of the book is all you needed.
I think that the storyline is really good, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that the premise is really good.
Yeah.
How original is that? How the dragons die and then they go up into the sky, and like the biggest thing is like they fell, and now they have to figure out why the dragons didn't stay in the sky and what's going on and all this stuff. And you have a rebellion in there. Oh man, do I love me a rebellion. And like there's there's the lost love situation. There's so many delicious parts of this book, and you 100% hit the nail on the head that it could have, in our opinion, for us, it could have been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely fell short. I I said it in the beginning. I was disappointed with how much I did not like this book. I really wanted to love this book.
Yeah. I want to read a little section so that I can explain what I mean about every sentence being turned up to 10. So she's literally, oh, I want to say a thing after this because it's something that I actually really did like a lot. There were those moments. Um, so the quote is, The feel of something splatting against my temple stirs me from a sleep riddled with fire and gulps of poisonous fear. A scream threatening to punch up my throat. My eyes pop open, teeth clamping down as I hiss breaths and wait for the fiery terror to stop wriggling. The smoky tendrils retreat, revealing my murky surroundings, my vision sharpening on the here. That's the end of the quote. Are you fucking kidding me? Just wake up and look around you. I can't. Anyway, that was I had to write that down because I was like, they have to understand what I mean.
The
I
funny thing is I kind of glazed over as you were reading it.
Bruh, there was so much unnecessary going on in there. Anyway, but so that happened when she was in the dungeon, okay? And when she was in the dungeon, there was a moment where she was talking about a water dripping. And she was talking about, or she, it was a drip of water that hadn't dropped yet. And she was like, oh, now it's gonna drop. No, no, now it's gonna drop. No, it dropped. Oh, there's another drop water. And it was, I thought it was beautiful because she's in this dungeon. There's nothing else around her. She can't see anything else. She's been in there for a bit, and she's watching this water droplet, which is so human. It was so like, I thought that was perfection as a concept. Not the way she wrote it. The way she wrote it was a lot, but the concept was so beautiful because it was so human to just be in that dungeon with nothing around you and just watching the water drop. I've been in the bathtub and done that. you know, I don't know. I just loved it.
Okay, I could dig that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I can't really say that there was really much that I liked at all. I mean, I so listen, there was no part of this that kind of really stood out to me. I think I have one favorite quote, and that's it.
mm-hmm.
Like there wasn't much for me. Like I have nothing more that I can really contribute because the fact that I gave up. I could not anymore. I could not sit there and read something that I already know the ending to because she gave me too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, like that's when your writing is too dense, people glaze over it, just like you did when I read those 4 sentences. When you give too much away, we're not invested in the ending. When you don't give us backstory, when you don't show us backstory and instead you tell us backstory, we have no connection to the situation or to the characters. It was yeah, it was a lot. Um,
Mhm.
you did mention that you had a favorite quote. What was your favorite quote?
And it's nice and simple. Nice and freaking simple. But every hurt has an echo if you look deep enough.
Oh, I like that.
So there was a moment, just to set the scene, there was a moment where one of the characters was looking at the FMC and seeing all her scars that were basically mended. They were covered up. You couldn't, and no regular person could see them, but this one person could look at her and see them. And that was the quote. Like every hurt has an echo if you look deep enough. And absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I love that moment for her because that was the one time you could tell she was vulnerable without wanting to be,
Mm-hmm.
like naturally vulnerable. Like you, the best friend's death, I didn't even feel like she was vulnerable in that moment, even when she lost it. This part, I felt that.
it's so funny you say that because I 1000% agree that she was not vulnerable. She was very dramatic and she was very sad, but she
Mhm.
wasn't, as much as she wrote it to be raw and um I don't even know, but I yeah, you couldn't, that was perfect the way you said it.
Yeah. It it was just one of the things like I said before, if I don't feel like my best friend is dying, then it doesn't matter. And there was no vulnerability in that enough to make me feel anything. This moment, I actually felt her. I felt it. And
You
yeah,
know what?
that's it.
You know what just popped into my brain?
What?
So you remember how we were talking about how it was, everything was turned up to a 10, everything was so dramatic and it was so go go go.
Hmm.
The character never stopped to feel things. There was no downtime. Like there was no, she's sitting in a tavern and she realizes what life is now for her and she just sits with it. You know what I mean?
I do, but at the same time, I don't think that would have given her I not given her enough of a vulnerable moment, but I don't think that would have been enough to make me resonate with her because
Sure.
or even care about her feeling vulnerable in that moment.
Right. No, I don't mean about that specifically. I mean like in general. Like there it was so um what I mean was it was just so like not even in connection with your statement.
Okay,
Just in
gotcha.
general, like she had no moment of like, it would be the same as having an action movie where everything is action 100% of the time, always go 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 go, and then they never stopped to take a break and be like, holy crap, this is what's going on. Like it almost never hit me because it never hit her. Does that
I
make
can I could
sense?
I can see that. I can totally see that.
um so did you happen to, and maybe you did not, but did you happen to have a favorite character?
Um, you know what? I'm gonna pull a you. Uh, the lark that I want to say was like me. I think that was its name that she gave it. The little paper that kept like following her around.
I don't even remember that.
It was in the way beginning. Like, and it was really weird because it was a note that said, I need you. And it wouldn't stop like fluttering because it obviously it needed to find someone or needed to be fulfilled and it wasn't. And so it kept like buzzing around her and was always there, and she always like that was the one thing that she actually showed emotion to and took care of. Oh, move away so you don't get wet type of deal. And I
Did
think that
I just block out this whole part of the book?
it was in the beginning, like literally when she got back to like the compound or her house, um that she she deals with this note. And they're shaped
Interesting.
like birds, so I mean it's like I don't know. I guess that was my favorite character because not only did it like have more emotion in it than anything else, but it was the best thing.
That's hilarious.
How about you? Did you have a favorite character?
You know what's funny is I did. I really
Oh,
liked the main male character. I really
okay.
liked Khan.
Okay. I
Yeah.
did I did get enough to like get a sort of feel of him, and he seemed
Mhm.
like he was sassy, and I like that.
He had a personality
Hmm.
and I dug it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I hated the FMC, but the MMC was lovely.
Yeah, I think we both can agree that she just kind of like sucked.
How do I say this in a way that makes sense? I don't like characters who, I mean, one, the constant I'm awesome, I'm awesome, I'm awesome, or I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, unless it's a matter in, unless it's addressed in the story. Like, say hypothetically, you have a character who's like, I'm the greatest warrior. I'm the greatest warrior. I'm the greatest warrior. And then all of a sudden they have a moment of vulnerability where they're having a conversation and they're like, no, I know I'm not the greatest warrior. I know that, I have so much to live up to and so much to learn and so much, and they have that. That's fantastic. God, I love that. But granted, I haven't finished. I'm on, let me see exactly where I am. I have not finished it. However, I am going to say I don't think that I'm on chapter 54. I don't think that there's enough in there for there to be that big of a character arc. But anywho's.
Hmm.
Um yeah, I don't know. I did not love her.
Yeah, I don't know. I yeah, definitely don't love her. Um,
There
again,
were characters later on that I liked.
and of course I'll never meet them.
Yeah. You know what? That's fine.
Like I hate to be that person, but that's how genuinely just disappointed I was. And maybe it does get better. Maybe it does, make a difference once you get past chapter 54 and you get into like chapter 60 and 70. But am I going to take the time and get through those chapters? Not currently.
Not at this point in my life.
I've got other books that I would rather dive into.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you feel about the people who say that if you DNF'd a book, then you don't have the right to review it?
I read more than enough to review it. There, so I think if you only got like a chapter in or something like that, then you have a right to have an opinion about it, but you don't have the ability to make a full assessment on the book. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I put in about almost a half a book. That is why I say I can have an assessment on the book. Like, I gave it literally my all to get that far, and it just wasn't it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to literally put in an effort to be able to sit there and say that you've done enough or read enough to have an assessment on the book. So I don't agree
I
with
agree.
them.
I agree. I don't think that you need to finish the book to have an opinion on it because frankly, if we finish the book, right, it won't change anything that we have said so far because especially like with this podcast, we don't go into the second half of the book usually. So it won't change anything that has happened before. My opinion of the book itself might be a little better in the overall grand scheme of things, but that won't change. You know what I mean? Like it won't
Yeah.
change much. I think that you can very well um review and have an opinion even if you DNF'd it. But like you said, you have to have you have to give it the good old college try, you know?
Yeah, if you read a chapter, I don't think you gave it enough of a try. I mean, it very well may be that bad of a book, but at the same time, like, still try a little bit harder before you destroy a author's career by writing this book sucked.
Yeah.
You know?
By the way, can we be a little nicer when we're writing reviews? I know that we weren't nice in this podcast, but we also never said, not one time ever, that the book was garbage and that the author should go off them, whatever. Like, people say some heinous stuff in these reviews. Like, someone said to an author, "I wish I could scrub this book from my brain." Really dramatic much?
I
Come
may have
on.
felt that way about one book, but
You don't say it to people.
Yeah, no. That's one book in my lifetime. But, it's like, I don't think this person should stop writing. I just think they should adapt, just less is more, that's all.
And frankly, even if they don't want to adapt, that's totally fine, because I mean, there's people that loved it. But like, for us,
absolutely. It's just like, so just because I don't like one book by this author doesn't mean that I won't like another one by this author. Everything's susceptible to change, and everybody's opinions are entitled to be changed, but just my opinion on this book in particular is set.
All right. So When the Moon Hatched was written by Sarah A. Parker, and you can find her website, SarahaParker.net. And on the front is a beautiful picture of the two main characters. She also has a link to her link tree on there. Also her Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. She is currently living in Australia, and she is on Instagram, sarah.a.parker.author. I will not be spelling that out for you, but I would suggest checking her out. Like I said, there are plenty of people who loved her books. The art that she has commissioned for her books, or for her book, is stunning. Her posts are beautiful. I would definitely say check her out. Just because we did not necessarily love it does not mean that you won't.
Exactly. And that's what this podcast is about. We give you our opinion. That does not mean that has to be your opinion.
She does have, there's a hard copy the hard copy of When the Moon Hatched that has sprayed edges, and it's gorgeous. First of all, the cover's beautiful anyway, but like, those sprayed edges, oh my God. Oh, they're fantastic. I want to lick it. It's so pretty. It's so pretty.
You're such a dork.
All right, Jen, can you tell everyone what we're reading next week?
All right. Next week, we are reading The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this one. I've been waiting for this book for months. I've been waiting for this book to come out. It came out on the 6th, and I've just been waiting.
You're so cute.
As soon as I learned about it, I was like, Jen, we gotta do this one.
Well, we're gonna get to it next week. But
Yay.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, and do all the things. And we shall see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.